side. I can't walk out because I love you too much, baby. Why can't you see what you do every beat when you don't believe a word I say?
Talking in your sleep, sleeping in your dreams, with some sweet lover, holding on so tight, loving her the way you used to love me. Talking in your sleep, on your mind.
Where it began, I can't begin to know it, but then I know it's going strong. Was it the spring? And spring became a summer. Who'd have believed to come along? Hands, touching hands, reaching out, touching me, touching you. Sweet Caroline, good times never seem so good. Looking back on memory of all the days we shared beneath the stars above. For a moment, oh, the world was right. How could I have known that you'd never say goodbye? And now I'm glad I didn't know the way it all would end, the way it all would go. Our lives are better left to chance. I could have missed the pain, but I didn't have to miss the
How did it feel listening to your music there?
Pretty awesome.
All right. Gracie, you got your kudos there. All right. Give them another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I want to welcome you guys to the unveiling, Country Trail Marker unveiling for Bobby Wood, country music legend Bobby Wood. Give him a hand, everyone. Now, on behalf of Visit Mississippi Executive Director Rochelle Hicks and Cultural Tourism Bureau Manager Camille King, I'd like again to welcome you, warm welcome to this beautiful occasion, beautiful day. Let's give it up for the weather.
Yeah.
It lasted, it did not rain, and we have a beautiful day. Good temperatures as well. My name is Michelle McAdoo. I'm Special Projects Manager with Visit Mississippi, and today's unveiling is a very special unveiling for the city of New Albany. Now, this marker will actually be a part of a long heritage of markers throughout the state of Mississippi. Now, this marker is powered by Mississippi Development Authority, Visit Mississippi, the Country Trail Commission, and communities like yours. Now, New Albany is already home to 2 Blues Trail markers. Some of you are aware, some of you may not know. Now, one honoring Roma Wilson and Leon Pinson, and the other celebrating Mosley and Johnson. And if you haven't taken part of those, I see one here, and the other one is
East Bankhead.
East Bankhead. So if you have a few minutes, go ahead and check those out as well. Now, these markers not only preserve our state's rich and diverse musical history and heritage, but it also ensures that these stories continue to inspire and instill others and future generations like Drew and Gracie. I was thinking about what I wanted to say today. I started reading his story, Bobby Wood's story, and it holds a special place in my heart because it serves as a powerful reminder to never give up on your dreams. Never give up on your dreams, even when life throws you unexpected challenges. Now, his unwavering belief in himself and determination helped him achieve his goals and work alongside some of the most incredible talents in music. Now, something we'll explore later in the program. You'll hear more about who he's worked with in his career.
Thank you for having me today. I've been fortunate to serve on the Country Music Trail Commission since its inception, and also on the Blues Commission back since 2006. Glad to be here, glad to be a part of this celebration. We've had so many of its likeness, from small crowds, large crowds. We're in 7 states and 5 countries between the Country Music Trail and the Blues Trail Commission. And so right now, as I'm looking at the Blues Trail marker, we have 217 Blues Trail markers around the country and in Europe. And right now, today, is going to be our 41st Country Music Trail marker, honoring Mr. Wood. So this is really exciting to be at Country Music Trail Commission, like the Blues Commission, has been set up through the legislature to recognize the importance of all of our artists, and not only blues, but mainly in country as we speak today. And we're so honored to be here as we look at as our 41st marker. As this, we recognize this day, it joins our marketing efforts, whether it be websites, our Country Music Trail app. The reach just today, when we unveil this marker, will put this city, New Albany, Mr. Wood, on the world map. It goes completely part of our marketing efforts, and believe me, people come from all over the world to see our markers and experience the town that they're going to visit too. Just for an example, just to name a few: Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis, Conway Twitty, Mac McAnally, Marty Stewart, Bobby Gentry, Charlie Pride, Steve Azar, Tammy Wynette, Jimmy Rogers, just to name a few. So, Ms. Wood, you will be in great company when we inaugurate you into our trail today. And we're, on behalf of our the governor and state of Mississippi and our Country Music Trail Commission, I have to share a quick story on the importance of these events. And we want it to be whatever the artist would like for it to be, special, whether it be small crowds, large crowds, inside. And we have had some just amazing events. And this is honestly one of the best turnouts that we've seen in a while. And it's great to see the local community come out and support the event. On a quick, small note, we were doing, I noticed that you did some recording and writing with the great Jerry Lee Lewis. And Jerry Lee, for his marker, we had a similar event planned at his ranch in Nesbitt. And he decided at the last minute he wanted to move it inside his house. So he said, okay, so the crowd shrunk down, but we went into his living room, sat next to his grand piano, brought the marker inside, and we did what the guests wanted us to do. And yes, I was very intimidated that day. Yeah. And so as we're speaking, the bullet holes that were in above the bar from one of his nights, I guess, but he was happy. He was sitting at his bar in his room, and that's what we wanted to do. So it was an exciting day. I just want to say again, congratulations. Welcome to the Country Music Trail. We look so forward to working with you, your group, and marketing you throughout the world. Even more so than you already are famous, as I've learned today. So
as we move forward, there are many other speakers that are going to share their stories and reminisce with you. And our next guest that I'm going to introduce on behalf of the mayor who could not be here today is Alderman Drew Horn. Thank you.
Good morning. Like you said, the mayor's under the weather, so I got asked this morning to step in to welcome everyone on behalf of the city of New Albany for just what a prestigious and wonderful day, prestigious honor. And to get to meet you this morning was truly an honor. And to look back and to see so much of the music that it kind of helped raise me, and never knowing, you always know who the performer is. But it's rare to get to meet a man that was so inspirational over the years, and like she said, inspiring another generation. Gracie on guitar, Dawson being an Elvis tribute artist at 13, 14 years old. So just on behalf of the city of New Albany, welcome everyone. It's a wonderful crowd. Thank you all for coming out. We forgot to turn the air on this morning. It's crazy to have to keep everything cool. So, but Mr. Bobby, thank you so much for all that you've done for the music industry, country music in general. And like I said, it was an honor to meet you this morning.
Well, we're so very proud and excited to celebrate Bobby Wood and his success and his creativity and his talent. He's a big part of our Union County's cultural story. This guy from the cotton farm at Mitchell Switch went into the world and did great big things. He did it in songwriting and performance, and he was connected to so many other talented people. And he's this down-to-earth fella that is still writing music, and his music has touched so many lives. He is a true creative spark, and he inspires others, as you see with his great niece Gracie. And with the placement of the Mississippi Country Music Trail marker at the museum, we have an exhibit about him inside, and we'll continue to celebrate his legacy and whatever comes next. Who knows what's going to come next? At the museum, we love telling stories about our people, and being part of this country music trail is wonderful because it just catapults it out to the rest of the world. Not that he needed any catapulting, he's catapulted himself, but we're just grateful to the state of Mississippi for celebrating one of our best commodities, which is music. Good grief, this is like the ground spring of it. So I want to thank you to our musicians today, and we're glad that the music is keeping going in the family with Gracie and others. And Dawson, thank you, Lisa. I want to mention that both Dawson and Gracie are museum kids. During COVID, we didn't know what to do with ourselves, and thanks to Leanne Thompson over here, she said, let's do museum kids. And we did, and if you go to our YouTube channel, you'll see Gracie and Dawson at younger ages still being fabulous. So you'll also see another interview with Bobby Wood that Leanne Thompson did. So that's a good thing to watch when you're doing nothing else there. Now I want to introduce the president of the board of directors of the Union County Historical Society, Colt Moon.
First off, I'm not much of a public speaker, but when asked to talk about the Wood family, I jumped right there. They've been my neighbors for 50 plus years, but first of all, you know, you may or may not know about Mitchell Switch. It's a suburb of North Ingomar, Martintown area here in Union County. It was a place on the north and south rail line where the old steam engines could take on water in the early days. Now you pass by it when you ride your bike along the Tanglefoot Trail. That's only one part of the story of Mitchell Switch. Another part of the Mitchell Switch story is the Wood family who lived there. They got music in their genes. The family for several generations have been known in the community for being musicians and singers from an early age, from the Shape Note gospel singing schools to the Pap Wood Gospel Radio Hour and Singer Convention of the Air. This family has a passion for music. Leslie Pap Wood, and my grandmama always called him Pap. I never knew his name was Leslie till several years later. He had a cotton farm at Mitchell Switch, and they, all along with all the others, sang in the cotton fields and also around the old upright piano in their home. Music was a big part of this family's focus. Not only were they well known in this community, the Wood family traveled throughout Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, all over the place to singing conventions. They ended up on stage at the Grand Ole Opry while Mr. Bobby was still a boy. It was a sign of much bigger things to come. The family's produced many musicians and continues to. We're celebrating Mr. Bobby and his musical legacy today. As I mentioned, they asked me to talk, just to give you a couple of memories of things that I had, that I remember about the Wood family, and I'll try to be quick. But faith was an important part in their family. And my first and one of my most fondest memories was Mr. Pap Wood. He led the music at church. And when I say led the music, he led the music. He did it with a pencil, had a pencil, and he was like a conductor at a symphony. And everybody sang in unison, and he made everybody sing in unison. It was just perfect. And I often would try to imitate him in the back. I'd sort of, because I thought that was just the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. Mr. Bobby's sister-in-law, Miss Darce, was a special person. Again, my neighbor for 50 years. But she wasn't a Wood, she married a Wood. And to marry into this family, you either had to play an instrument or sing. That's just the way it was. So I knew I'd never have a chance of any of that, But Miss Doris would play the piano for our youth group later on in my years, teenage years. And what she would do, she had these books, they always have these books on top of the piano. She never looked at them, never even looked at them. She just played she just play all the time, just tear that piano up, but she never even looked at the books. She just knew it by heart. Another fond memory was 4th of July. Every 4th of July, man, I loved it. It was like we'd have a free concert. Mr. Bobby, he was the only celebrity that I really knew in person, and I haven't seen him in several years, but he was the only person I really knew, and he traveled with all these musicians and sang and all that. Well, Mr. Billy, about a week before the July the 4th weekend, he'd come by. He'd say, well, we got the family coming in again, Mr. Bobby and the band and everybody coming in, and just want to invite y'all to come over. We're going to have plenty of food and singing and all of that. And he said, Daddy always told me to, we'd tell him, I said, you don't have to, we'll be there. You don't have to, tell us what's all going on. We know. He said, well, Daddy always told me to invite all the neighbors and all the people in the town, Martintown, so it'd be less likely that y'all call the sheriff on us for disturbing the peace. So, but that was some great times, very, very great times. And one last thing I want to mention is just to tell you about this family. Again, I've known this family for 50 years, close friends, still neighbors with Ricky and Josh and so many. But faith was an important thing. Fun, food, fellowship, music, obviously. But a care for their fellow man is also something. And let me tell you a story. Not everybody knows this, but I want y'all to know this. Our church had a singing group come through several years back, and it was a young guy, young boy, was with them. That was one of the family members, and somebody had stole his guitar out of their van at a place they had stopped to eat, and he was just tore up about it. And it was a lot of money. And anyway, this was later on in years, Mr. Billy, later on in years, and I saw him sort of slip out. I say, he's not feeling well and all of that. And he come back a little bit later. You know what he had in his hand? He had a guitar in his hand and gave it to that young man. And that meant a lot to me and a lot to that that young man and that family. And this is the kind of family we're recognizing today. And I'll tell you what, if America and this country cared as much for fun and family and friends and fellowship and fellow man, this place would be a better place. Thank you, Mr. Bobby. We appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Let's bring up Gracie as she comes. She is his great niece.
My name is Gracie Williams, and I'm a great niece of Bobby Wood. And as a musician, you always have that one person that you look up to, and you rely on them as an inspiration for a new song, a new riff, or just a whole new style of music. Well, mine, and I'm proud to say, is my Uncle Bobby. And he has helped create so many major milestones in the evolution of music, and to his credit, he has written, sang, and played on songs with artists such as Elvis, The Highwaymen, Crystal Gale, Leanne Rimes, B.J. Thomas, Neil Diamond, and that's just to name a few. Well, one artist in particular, Garth Brooks, he has worked with since the beginning of Garth's career. And he is the only musician who has been inducted into the Musicians Hall of Fame in Nashville twice. He has also, most recently, been inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame with the Nashville Cats. And his biggest accomplishment has been his faith in God and his dedication to his family. I would like to introduce to you the myth, the legend, the man, Bobby Wood.
Now you gotta pull it down. 1, 2, let's count. 3.
Thank everybody so much. That makes me very humble.
You're the reason we're here.
I appreciate y'all.
And then now, if I could just get Mr. Bobby.
Okay. Anybody know this one? That's Neil Diamond. He came to the studio a few weeks after Elvis was in, and we had to move him back to do the sessions on Elvis. So we'd already cut to Traveling Salvation Man on Neil, and so the Tommy Cogbill, the producer, asked him. He said, "You got anything else?" And Neil started singing this song, and he said, "This was not quite finished, but." He said, "Yeah, I do have another one, Sweet Caroline." And we were all sitting around with our thumbs up saying, "Let's go do it." And he said, "But it's not finished." And I said, do the first verse twice, you know. So we went down and put a track down on it. And then Neil wanted Paul Davis. You remember Paul Davis, the rock star guy. He was hanging around the studio. He'd never had a hit before. And so Neil asked Paul and himself, and he said, "Bobby, let's 3 of us go out and put backgrounds on Sweet Caroline." So we did it, and then later on they overdubbed some girls singing on it. But that's and another thing, as we was cutting the track, his microphone was behind one of those things that rolls out, you know, forget what you call it. But anyway, he was behind there, so he came out from around there to the piano, and he said, "Bobby," he said, I got a lick. Let me see what you think about this." And he said, when he sang "Sweet Caroline," bum bum bum, I said, "It's great. I think I'll claim it myself." Okay. So it was originally a piano lick, and as time went on, when we came in to hear the playbacks with horns and strings and everything and vocals, they'd taken the piano out and put horns and strings on it, and they said, "What do you think?" And I said, "It belongs there. It definitely does." So that's what you learn as a producer. If somebody's got something better, then you do it, you know. So, and no problem. That's just a production team that we had together. Well, I guess you know who that is. Yeah. Little guy from Tupelo. Anyway, one of our writers at the studio had written this song, and we also, one of Elvis's entourage was working in our office booking sessions, Marty Lacker. And so Marty said that they were out at Graceland getting ready to do another session with no songs in Nashville. So they were looking to book another session. So Marty said that, you know, everybody, they got called into supper or whatever it was out there at Graceland. And so Marty didn't go eat with them. And so Elvis came back in the den and said, "Are you not eating with us?" And he said, "No, I don't have the stomach to go back to Nashville and just do the same old thing we've been doing for 8 years with no songs." And so Elvis said, "What is it going to take for you to do that?" And he said, "You need to come over to American Studios. These guys have got great writers." And we also had the songs and a lot of hits by this time. And he said, "We'll call the studio and see if we can get in next week." So this was like Friday or Saturday night. And Marty called the studio and he said, "We got we got Neil Diamond coming in." That's when we was going to do Sweet Caroline. But the boss man said that we'll move him back, move Neil Diamond back and put in Elvis the upcoming Monday. So that's what they did, and Elvis came in, and I very well remember when he got to the studio, he didn't go anywhere till midnight. I mean, we were sitting there, and I already had my patch over my eyes, like getting tired and everything. So we said it was almost midnight, and I was standing kind of at the back door of the studio and talking to Reggie Young, and so I looked at him, I looked at Reggie, and I said, "Elvis is here." And Reggie looked around, left, right. Where is he? I said, "He's getting ready to come in." About that time, the back door came open, and here come Elvis's entourage, and of course, Elvis looked like he just stepped out of a movie. I mean, somebody said the best looking man I ever saw, and I ain't that way, you know. But anyway, that was my experience with Elvis. Other than, I'll tell you this too. There was one night we were recording, and I don't know, I credit it to being a Memphis boy, and Elvis being a Memphis Tupelo, that we just kind of hit it off together, you know, as friends, you know. And he loved to play jokes on people, and so did I, and we just had a lot of fun. So one night the board was, they were having problems with the mixing board, so I went out to the piano and just doodling around, you know. And he came out and sat down right beside me, and we just started talking about life, you know. And I felt like he just unloaded his heart, and because maybe somebody needed to be there for a shoulder. And we got to talking about going to church and all kind of things. And I know he loved the Lord, and he told me, he said, working in Hollywood, he said, you know, you don't want to do bad things, but you end up doing them, you know. And this was after his mama had passed away. And he said, but I could go home to my mom. And I said, "She was your rock, wasn't she?" And he said, "Yep." He said, "I go home and spend a couple of weeks, and she'd put me back on the high road." And I thought that was really neat out of him. But we did. We had some laughs and good times and all kinds of stuff.
As the snow flies on a cold and gray Chicago morning, a poor little baby child is born in the ghetto.
On this song, we had finished the record, and they'd sent the master to Nashville to RCA, and we didn't hear back from them in quite a while. And they didn't really want Elvis to sing a song about the ghetto. They didn't think it would be appropriate. But Chip said, "If you don't, I'm going to cut it on Joe Simon next week." And so it was our song, you know, so we could do what we wanted to with it. But anyway, RCA called back and he said, "Okay, let's do it." and it was biggest hit it ever had. Elvis, by the way, was out of the charts for something like 8 years, and so we brought him back to life, and 3 #1 songs, "In the Ghetto," "Suspicious Minds," and Kentucky Rain. Yeah. So that's the rest of the story on him.
Have I ever done
Know who that is, right?
deserve even one?
Chris Christopherson. This was actually the only hit record he ever had, this was my first session in Nashville, and it was with Chris Christopherson on "Why Me Lord." Great song, great gospel song. Okay, this was George Jones and Tammy Wynette's last album together. I think they'd already gotten a divorce. And so something happened. The producer, Billy Sherrill, they'd booked the sessions for George and Tammy for that whole week. And something happened to Pig. Pig Robbins was usually Billy Sherrill's first call on keyboard. And he was great piano player. And but I don't know if he was sick or double booked or something. And Billy Sherrill called a guitar friend of mine, and Billy Sanford. And he said, "Billy, what are we going to do for a piano?" And Billy said, "Those Memphis boys are pretty good." And said they just got in town. They said they're doing really good. And he said, "Call it the keyboard player." And so he called me, and I got to play on that album with George and Tammy and Golden Rings. And I was sitting there with all those Nashville guys. It was my heroes, tears rolling down my face. And I've arrived. But that was a humbling experience. But anyway, I guess Billy Sherrill liked my playing so good till I worked with him for 14 years after that. So they would hire Pig, but then they'd hire me to play Fender Rhodes or the Wurlitzer. So anyway.
Won't you play another somebody done somebody wrong song?
This was on the Wheel of Fortune. That's the longest title ever in a song. Somebody done somebody wrong song. No. Hey, won't you play another somebody done somebody wrong song? Yeah, that was our first hit on BJ in Nashville. First hit on BJ Thomas after we moved to Nashville. So it was all of us, the Memphis Boys.
To find time to leave me, Lucy. 4 hungry children and a crop in the field.
This is a true story. Me and Reggie Young and several other pickers was on the session for Larry Rogers. He was the producer, was producing the album on Kenny Rogers. And Kenny hated this song. He told the producer, he said, "Be my luck, I would sing this song and it'd be a hit and I'd have to do it the rest of my life." He said, "I hate it." And so the producer finally twisted his arm. I think it was around midnight. And he said, just give me one take, one time go out and sing. They already had a track. And he said, "Well, okay." And that was it. First #1 in years. This was written by me and Roger Cook, English guy that had moved to Nashville around 75, I think. And this was one of my first co-writing songs too. We wrote this in New Year's Eve, 1977, and me and Roger Cook was just sitting around pondering ideas, because the New Crystal Gale album was coming up, and so I said, what comes to your mind when you think about songs that is just kind of magical, you know? And I said, well, dreams and songs about talking in your sleep and stuff like that, you know? And Roger said, how about 3 o'clock in the morning? And I said, and it looks like it's going to be another sleepless night. And that's how that started. So we pitched it to another good friend of mine who had moved from Memphis that I knew very well to produce Crystal in Nashville. And so he hired me on the session to do it. And so somehow along the line, one of my producing friends had heard my version of the demo of Talking in Your Sleep. And he had pitched it to Chet Atkins. And Chet told him, he said, let's do a one-song contract on this song, you know, just no more. And so I guess Roy Day was the guy, he was a producer too. He pitched the demo to Chet Atkins. The dementia is awful, man. But anyway, so they sent a contract over to my office. It looked like the New York Yellow Pages. I never seen a so thick of a contract. And I'd been on the road before, and that's the hungriest I've ever been. That's just, man, you'd have to do all these freebie radio station tours that you don't make a dime on, and they'll give you a plane ticket and a hotel room. And I said, man, I don't really want to do this. I've been there and lost a shirt. And so I picked up the phone and called Alan, and I said, what do you got scheduled for Crystal's next single? And he said, Talking in Your Sleep. And I said, thank you, Jesus, thank you, Jesus, thank you, Jesus. That's great. And I said, please call Chet Atkins back and tell him we can't do it. But that's how I got out of that, ungracefully.
I just never took the time.
This song that Willie sang, some of the writers was down at the studio late hours, of course, and this one guy, Wayne Carson, was a big songwriter. He'd written Cry Like a Baby and different songs. And so his wife had called him, and she said, Wayne, you're going to have to come home. You've been gone for a month. Said, you got kids, and we need you to come home. And he said, but honey, I'm just trying to get a song cut. He said, all these people are in for album cuts, and he said, I need to try to get a get an album song cut. And so in a little while, she kept wanting him to come home, and he said, well, you were always on my mind. And he looked around at one of the other writers, and the other writer stuck his thumb up, and he said, I got to go now. So him and another guy, Johnny Christopher, went upstairs and wrote Always on My Mind. It took 3 years to record this song. After we got the track down with Billy Sherrill, George wouldn't do it. He said, that is the most morbid song I've ever heard in my life. And he said, it'll never be a hit. And so a year went by, and Billy decided to call George again and see if we could get him to come in. He said, oh yeah, I'll come in and sing that son of a gun, you know. So he came in and did a great take on it. And so then Billy Sherrill wanted to lengthen the tracks, and he wanted a talking part. Well, it took another year for the two writers to do a talking part for the third verse on this song. 3 years in recording. So they finally got it out, and sure enough, the next session we did on George, George had to pay Billy his $100. He said, here you are. It was a hit, the biggest hit he ever had. This song, Randy Travis had done. They had cut an album on him, and so they didn't hire a piano player for some reason. So their producer called me and see if I'd come over and overdub piano on a couple of songs. And I said, well, sure. So I went over, just the producer and the recording and putting piano on 1982 and On the Other Hand. So I, signed the time card and went home, and so then I forget it was 1982 or On the Other Hand. Same producer called me and wanted me to do the Opry with Randy because he had a #1 record and he was going to be on the Grand Ole Opry. And I said, sure, I'll help you out. So I went over, and as he was singing 1982, I was playing the piano, what I had played, overdubbed. And so then he had already got through when I got off stage, and we still didn't meet each other. We'd never seen each other before. So the next thing I knew, somebody flashed a picture of me when they were having Randy's gold record party, and I had Janice with me, and somebody got a picture of me shaking hands with Randy Travis saying, I'm your keyboard player. And he had a look like a deer in the headlights. He said, who in the heck are you? So that was our first meeting. Who is this artist? When Merle would come to Nashville, he didn't really like the Nashville sound. He wanted something a little more, I don't know, cookie cutter type thing. He wanted to do something different. So I guess the producer or whoever was producing him said, well, let's just call a couple of Memphis guys in and we'll make it a little bit more pop or whatever, and just make it a good singable track. And that's what we did. We cut 501 blues and When Everything's Good, I'm Gonna Leave You, and That's the Way Love Goes. We had 3 #1s on one session that week. But almost everything. But he wouldn't come to Nashville very much. He'd have us flown out to California and record out there. But I couldn't get him to come back in. But anyway, it was like 3 #1s in one sitting.
I was a highwayman. Along the coach roads I did ride. Sword and pistol by my side. Many a young maid lost her baubles to ride.
We recorded this in 1998, 99, somewhere in there, on those 4 guys. Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, who else was it? Waylon Jennings, and Chris Christopherson. And when we finished the album, our producer, of course, he hired all the Memphis boys. He wouldn't work without us. So he said, man, we're going to run into a mess trying to figure out whose band to take on the road. And Chip said, well, let's just shell out some extra money and take the recording band on the road with them. So it was agreeable to everybody. Said, let's do it. So we started the concerts and traveling on the road. And I'll have to tell you, honestly, the first 6 months, I guess we were out. We did an American tour, we did a European tour, we did an Australian tour, several Vegas weeks. And but I told somebody, I said, once you played the intro to Always on My Mind the 1400th time, I said, let me out of here. This is not my gig. And I realized I was a student. I was born for a studio. And so anyway, it's nothing against the Highwaymen because, first time they came on stage all at one time, I got cold chill bumps myself. It was like, whoa. But we ran into people like in Vegas and New York and California and whatever, a family of about 18 people. So one time we were doing the Highwayman show in Vegas. And I saw this same family in the hallway, and so I said, I'm going to talk to these people. And so I asked them, I said, boy, y'all really do love Highwaymen, don't you? I see you everywhere, you know. And they said, yes, we love the four guys, but we come to hear the band. I said, whoa. This was a song that me and Johnny Christopher wrote, and it was Merle's last #1. And I forget what year it was out, but it was, Johnny Christopher had come by my office one day and he said, I got a kind of an idea for a song. And to go back just a little bit, one of my other co-writers had an office next door, but I mean, he could kind of hear what was going on behind the walls. And so Johnny started playing, who would end up being one of the greatest acoustic rhythm guitar players in the world. Just a real laid-back sound. And so he said, got a call today saying, could we be friends? Could we? Got a call tonight saying, could we? What a way to, anyway, he had the lyrics of the first verse, and what a way to end. They say the darkest hour is just before the dawn, so I'll just hold my head up and try to sing my song. And that was like just a melody all by itself. And he said, what do we do to this? And I said, how about better love next time? Just don't let me lose my mind. So that we finished the song that day, and Ralph Murphy was working next door, and he came into the office the next morning, and he said, I hate you. And I said, why do you say that? And he said, you kept me awake all night last night singing that song. I couldn't get it out of my ears. So that was his last #1. Oh. I don't know who that was. Yeah, we were kind of baffled at what happened to Garth. I mean, there was a Nashville Nights TV show that viewed once a week. And so one of their artists didn't show up at the last minute, so they called Bob Doyle, who was Garth's manager. And he said, you got anybody that can fill a slot, TV slot? And he said, yeah, I got a new artist, Garth Brooks. And so, you know, I thought he was good, but I never would have thought in a million times that he'd ever been a superstar. So anyway, there was a few of the band that was on the record that did come over, but they hired some other people, and we did 2 or 3 songs on that show. And they said the first song that he did, I forget which one it was, they said the phone lines lit up. It was teenagers calling a TV station. And I couldn't see a monitor, but they said that, his producer, which was Alan Reynolds, my friend, he's a type song person that says, you know, there'll be songs that will come across, that'll come to you. People are going, that's a hit. But he said, and if you can't believe the lyrics and if you can't make it your own, don't do it. He said, only sing songs that you can make your own. So that actually came from Sam Phillips years ago. So that's what he did when he looked in that camera with his baby blue eyes, melted the college kid's telephone, you know, lit up. And I came in the studio one day after his first album took off, and Alan was just coming out of the control room, and I said, what do you think, pal? He said, I said, thank God for an honest man. I wouldn't have either. But he's been one of the greatest friends anybody could ever know. So we off the street. The night we cut, or the day we cut this, Garth just sat down on the floor and with his guitar and played the song, and didn't play a demo or nothing. Usually we start with a demo, but I guess he didn't want us to hear the demo, and because he did that a lot. He wanted us to go in our direction, not somebody else's. But he came over to the piano and said, "Bobby, have you ever seen a movie called Man from Snowy River?" I said, "Yeah, I just watched it again a few days ago." He said, "Remember the scene of the horses and the snow coming up around their heads in slow motion?" And I said, "Yeah, very well." And he said, "With that in mind, give me an intro to the dance." So everybody was quiet for at least 25, 30 seconds, I guess. And I said to turn the tape on. And so that's what came out. So, came from God, straight from the Lord. And he told me later, he said, he's talking about the funny things that happened on the road. And he said, some guy walked up to him one night and said, "Who is Ida?" And Garth said, "Ida." He said, "In your song, Ida had to leave." Anyway, that's it. Joe Tex, one of the funniest guys in the world. We had just finished Skinny Leg. No, we just finished going to the ranch house next door, which was a restaurant. And so Joe had this song called Skinny Legs. And he went over to Reggie, and of course, Joe would come to the studio with a gallon of orange juice, house shoes, and a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken. And he went over to Reggie and he said, "Reggie, give me a chicken lick on the entrance of this song." And Reggie fooled around with the guitar for a while, and after a while he hit that da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And Joe fell down on the floor with his legs up in there, and he said, "That's it, that's it, that's it." He said, "Do it again." It was da-da-da-da-da. And he did the same thing again. But he was a great guy.
Nobody wants to do stuff for me, so they don't have any.
Aww.
And